If you've been running on empty, silently screaming inside while showing up for everyone else, this segment is for you. We'll unpack what burnout really is from a spiritual perspective and why it often hits those with the most light and hardest. Discover how chronic fatigue, apathy, or emotional numbing could be signs that your soul is calling you back home. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. This space was created to remind you that you are not alone, and no matter what your past looks like or what you're facing today, you hold the power to shift your life. We've all walked through pain, loss, betrayal, loneliness, frustration, and hopelessness. But your story doesn't end there. This show is about tuning those dark nights into dawn. It's about rediscovering the truth of who you are beneath the pressures, performance, and expectations. Maybe you've achieved success, but deep down you still feel isolated, angry, or even like giving up. You long to be seen, not for the titles or accolades, but for your truth. You want to be known and celebrate for the real you and not the version of yourself that's been performing just to survive. Perhaps you sat quietly listening to what sets your soul on fire, only to be met with fear, guilt, shame, or frustration. You try to push through, but the old stories whisper, you're not enough. And just like that, you freeze. You've read the books, gone to the workshops, implemented the strategies, but something still feels off. That cycle of hope followed by disappointment keeps repeating, and the voice inside says, maybe this is all there is, but it's not. As a certified transformational coach and the creator of the Soul Journey program, I help you to reconnect with your authentic self and align with your soul vision. I give you the tools to remember who you really are, powerful, worthy, and whole. And since I'm in Torrington, Wyoming, I will not be doing the tuning forks because I did not bring them with me. So we are going to move forward into the segment. So the purpose is to validate the lived experience of your burnout and to introduce you to a soul level signal that it's not a personal failure. So again, I'm offering the light activation guide that can help you move through what's going on with you. And I also want to set the energetic tone that you are not broken, you are awakening. So the roots of energetic burnout has a tendency they have a deeper cause, which we mostly ignore, and that is about overgiving, identity disconnection, and spiritual exhaustion. And then the signs of a soul level burnout, which are not just physical, but they're emotional numbness, loss of purpose, and chronic overdoing. Now, I can identify with that. I have spent a lot of time, I'm an overachiever because everything I did was never enough. And I always thought that I needed to go further, do more to be more of who I am. Now, a lot of times I could carry on most of that energy, but not always. And I certainly not anymore. Am I willing to go to that type of level for that? Because I don't like feeling numb. I don't feel like I've lost my purpose. And believe me, I do feel that sometimes. Even though I may know, I still feel that because there's that human overdoing that I do. And then there's that disconnect that sometimes I feel like I'm just lost. And I think it's all a bunch of hooey when it's not hooey. It's, it's just, I'm tired. And it gets really old. And especially when you're a high achiever, you're an empath, and you also care about people a lot. That is the silent struggle that I'm always fighting because I always think that I'm never enough. I was told I was never enough, so I believed I was never enough. And then why those with the most light often suffer the most is because we are here for a bigger purpose. And when we look around the world, and how the world is showing up, we think that we are a misfit in this world, and we're not a misfit. But we think that because we are so ego-driven on this planet right now, that it gets tiring. And I can't tell you how many times that I've like, why am I still here? What's the purpose? I don't think anybody wants to do it. And there's a whole new level coming in right now for me at times where it's like, why do I even want to be here? Because I'm feeling almost a sense of hopelessness. I don't believe that, but it's what I feel sometimes. I don't think that that's, I don't believe that we're not savable, because I believe we are. I believe there's a lot more people that are working in the light, trying to create a different outcome for their lives than being the victims and praying to what the media is telling us, to what the governments are telling us. I truly believe that there are more of us than them. And I have always said that if we ever marched on Washington or wherever the country is that you're in, that they would eventually succumb. They might kill the first line or two, but they can't kill everybody. And I've always believed that we, the people, are stronger than what is running the world, and they can't stop us. And I believe that to this day. I have always believed that. And I'm not saying let's go march on Washington. I'm not saying that. I like to think about it, but I'm not saying that. I don't want to say that. I just think that if we take more personal responsibility for who we are, how we live, how we think, how we feel, and we do that and we change our inner world, then our outer world changes. And then that concentric circle in the water starts the rippling effect. And I really, truly believe that's the power of numbers. That's the power of the light workers coming together. That's the power of the way showers coming together. Because I've always believed that a light worker is a laser beam of light. So when you walk into a dark room and the laser beam comes in, you are not lighting up the room. You have a laser beam approach. The darkness that's out here, because we are in a spiritual war, believe it or not, we are. When you come into a room and you turn on the light, the dark disappears. And I've always believed that if the way showers and the light workers join forces, instead of being in this weird competition thing that the ego creates, we join together as a unity. When we walk into the room, the darkness disappears. I truly believe that's it. And it comes from each of us taking personal responsibility. Now, the illusion of control, and then there's the collapse that awakens. So holding it all together can also delay your transformation. And a lot of times, how many times can I say that I was holding on to the edge of the riverbank, not wanting to leave it because I was afraid that if I did that, I would die. But it's being beaten up on the side of the river as the water is flowing down that you're drowning. And if you let go and just ride the current of the river, everything starts to change. And that becomes a sacred turning point. And I remember the time I did that, and it was one of the hardest things I did. And that visualization that I had was literally hanging on to like a dead tree limb in a river. And it was like, let go, let go, let go. And it's like, I can't do that. I'll die. But I let go, and then I bounced with it. And that's what doing that type of thing is. When we can move into another direction where we can trust and let go, surrender, things start to change. So the question that I have for you is, where are you pretending that everything is fine? Because you may be fine on the outside, but inside you're not fine. And I mean, the word fine for me was, I'm fine. And of course, a friend of mine described what the word fine meant, and some of it I'm not going to say on the air because it's not proper. But I wasn't fine, and I'm not always fine. I just say that for people to leave me alone, to back off. I know that I will be fine, but I'm not fine now. But I always wanted to just leave me alone. I can handle it. So I'm going to invite you to take in a breath. And if you have the light activation guide, use that as a reference, because this will actually help you move into other areas of your life where you're taking back control. And the best way to take control of your life is through your breath. And I know people don't always think that breath does that, but breath really is an amazing thing of what it does to our bodies, what it does to our brain chemistry. That breath makes all the difference in the world. And if you're breathing deeply and from down into the bottom of your stomach, and you're breathing that deeply, everything calms down and relaxes. It's the shallow breathing, because you're now in a panic, you're in stress, you're in a fight or flight mode. And as long as you're in that, as far as I'm concerned, the negative powers to be are running your life. It's when you can step back, take control, breathe, observe what's going on. And when I say observe, I really mean get off the stage, get out of the drama of your life, and watch and reflect. And that's going to make all those changes in your life in a way that you're not going to really believe it until you actually experience it. And I know this because I walked through every bit that I talked to you about. I have walked through it. I know what I'm talking about here. It might be a little different for you, but on a whole, it's always going to be the same. Who are you and what are you thinking? How much fear are you holding on to while you're in this process of your awakening? Because I promise you, every person on this planet is going through an awakening process. Every person. There's no way you can avoid this because of the amount of light that is being inundated on this planet right now, is hitting the deepest cores of your beingness right now. And you have no choice but to wake up. I mean, I'm going deeper all the time into my own awakening. And sometimes it's not easy. But you know what? I have enough evidence to know that on the other side, it's going to be worth it. I know that this grieving process that I'm going through with my father is so unnormal for what most people go through. But I also realize the soul contracts that are involved. I understand more of what's going on. I understand that whatever hold that man had on me is leaving. And I can feel it in my body, because when people tie into you, they are tying into your body. And I'm learning a whole thing around what that. Behind the burnout is often a deep identity crisis. And in this segment, we're going to explore the subconscious roles that you've been playing, the caretaker, the perfectionist, and the strong one, and why they've become spiritual cages. You'll learn how releasing these identities isn't giving up, it's waking up. Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we're streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. And I know I blipped out. I don't know why I blipped out, but who knows? But we're back. So hopefully this isn't going to happen, and it could be just what's happening here in the hotel. So what I want to do in this segment is I want to uncover subconscious patterns and identities that contribute to burnout and keep the soul from rising. So so basically everything that we've talked about is just the game that we play with ourselves, because we don't always know. We are programmed from little kids to be a certain way. We're supposed to act a certain way. We're supposed to conform to society, that type of thing. Depending on what happens in our childhood, we become the perfectionist, the strong one, the peacemaker, the overachiever. And I can identify with all of that because of the things that happened in my childhood, that I was a perfectionist. Thank God I gave that one up. I am definitely the strong one. I am still the Rock of Gibraltar in how a lot of people see me. And if I'm falling, then they know that they're already drowning. And I think that's a bunch of crap, but that's how people perceive me. And then how these roles were formed during that time for me was for my own safety and survival, because of the abuse that I incurred as a child. The one that did it. So when my father beat the hell out of me when I was 11, I went into, I don't feel safe. And I went into a survival mode. I realized that my parents were incapable of doing anything. So I became the parent at 11. That means I became an overachiever. That meant that I was going to be a perfectionist. And I also developed my suicidal tendencies at that time. I didn't want to live and go on, because if I was going to live like my parents, I'd rather be dead. And that was how I felt about it. And every single one of those attitudes that I carry throughout my life slowly drained the life force out of me. And thank God at 16, when I went to that Edgar Cayce meditation meeting with my mother, I was given an opportunity to see that there was something different and something better. Now, back in the 70s, this was a totally different experience as far as the dimness of the light that was on the planet. And I was here to open that doorway to bring the younger generations into the planet so they can carry on the forward movement in the ascension process that we are in. And believe me, that was a big task back then. So how many of you are holding on to the loyalty of your old pain of where you're suffering and you have these trauma identities and generational stories? And if you let it go, who will you be, right? God knows I did that. I walked around like that for years. Who would I be if I let this go? Because it was an identity. I think when you have hoarders and pack rats and things like that, and I know I was guilty, not that I'm a hoarder or a pack rat, but you carry your life with you. Like I carried my yearbook for forever. I carried certain things in my life. And one day I said, why am I carrying this crap? I don't need it. I don't want it. Of course, Facebook comes back. It would have been nice to see people's faces again. But you know what? It didn't matter to me because it wasn't important. I know what my life is. And carrying momentums of your life just weighs you down. The memories are in your head. How many of you carry your life around with you forever? I mean, I moved so many times that I wouldn't carry a lot of stuff. And then I would live in a house for a while, build it all up. And then it's like, I'm going to move all this crap. Are you kidding me? I don't think so. And so I'm learned to start releasing things. If I don't need it, get rid of it. Create more space for where you want to be and who you want to become. And that's when you're holding on to your past like that, you're holding on to your pain, you're holding on to your suffering, you're holding on to a false identity of who you are. That is not who you are. And when you start releasing that, opening more space for new things to come in, because the universe is always going to fill a void. Always. It always does. But as long as you're carrying all this stuff around, all this garbage and baggage, as I call it, because the outward stuff that we have in our possession is also the inward baggage that we carry within us. Start getting rid of that. You create more space. You feel lighter. Things start moving and you feel better. So when you face those fears of that emptiness, that void between what's ending and what's beginning. Now, we know that place sucks a lot of times too. And I'm right in the middle of that place. But see, I have a really strong vision of who I want to become. And I keep moving in that direction. And the more you move into that direction, sometimes it feels like that space is never ending, but it is ending. And I know it's ending. I can see the end. And I have to trust. And I was talking to somebody last week and I said, I'm getting my PhD in surrender right now. And that's how it feels. Like I really am learning how to surrender on levels, beyond levels, beyond levels. I think that's why surrender eluded me most of my life, is because I've spent a lifetime learning how to surrender. I learned to surrender my pain and my trauma, and I'm learning how to surrender and trust that spirit really is taking care of me, because my ego comes in and it screams. It still screams of, well, what are you going to do with this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And it's like, shut up. And that's what I tell it. Just shut up already, because it's bogus. Because ultimately, when I can get into those higher vibrational frequencies, you just know. It's navigating through that, which is the challenge. And that's what I'm learning how to do to help you learn how to navigate through higher frequencies as well. So why is this space fertile? It's not frightening. The reason it's fertile, that when you start moving into a higher vibrational frequency and you start dumping the density of you, the soul contracts or your thoughts of what people lied to you about who you were, because I know that when my mother died, I realized that my whole life was a lie, that everything I was ever told was a lie. And the minute that I gave up on that and accepted that, and it was painful. Oh my God, it was so painful, because I really was in an identity crisis at that point of, well, who am I and where am I going and what do I think and how do I feel and what the hell do I even want? And it was a challenge to get through it, but I went very deep, very quiet. I hibernated for many years. as I was moving out, and of course, ballroom dancing was the best way to me to accelerate, because if you got something that makes your heart sing, it helps make this transition easier. When you're doing something that comes back to where you're having fun and you're childlike, a spirit loves when you're childlike and you're playing. And so things move faster because you're playing, and that's what spirit wants you to do. They're not asking us to be in the drudgery and the heaviness of this planet. They're asking us to play. You know, Einstein said the solution to the problem is not where the problem was created. The solution to the problem is at a higher vibrational frequency. Fastest way to get there? Play. Do angels, spin around in circles, dance, walk, hike, whatever it is. Just play, and things start to shift very, very quickly because you're moving energy. So what role or belief are you ready to release? Have you even thought about wanting to get rid of something? Or are you just holding on to it because you don't know? But you do know. You always know. You just lie to yourself. And I can speak very clearly about that. I could say, I don't know, but I always knew. That little voice in my head's always talking to me. It's like, you know, but you don't want anybody else to know. So if you say you don't know, then nobody else knows, and then they'll take the pressure off of you. But you never take that pressure off of yourself, regardless. You're the one that's still driving the boat. You're always going to drive the boat. And you can lie to yourself all you want to, but how long do you want to keep playing that game with yourself? And then who are you becoming without it? That's the thing. I mean, this is probably the biggest thing that I'm learning is, who am I really now that I'm not being associated with a perpetrator still being alive, where I'm always still looking over my shoulder. And even though I don't think I'm looking over my shoulder, I was still looking over my shoulder, people. When that word came in that my father passed, there was a shift in me that I did not understand 100%, but I felt it. And that's what I am, is because I want to be free of being tied to the earth. So I got 3 minutes, and I want to just kind of let you know something that I've done that's helping me with my cats, because, you guys know about Marco, and we're having a tough time integrating him after almost a year. And so I signed up to surrender him at the end of the month, and something's because I wanted to make sure Marco stays. So I asked Spirit, what can I do? And they said, there is something you can do. I'm using a pendulum right now. And last night I did the pendulum because Marco's a feral cat, and he, in his first 8 months of his life, he had to survive on his own. And then he comes into the house, and of course, what's he doing? He's being a feral cat in the house. Even though he's behaving in the house, he's still a feral cat to the other cats. Last night, I did a whole thing about all my cats and everything with Marco. And Sal tells me this morning about they're playing. And I'm like, what? And I told him what I had done. So he had told me that these cats are moving, and cats are very energetic animals anyways. And so I thought, okay, when Sal's telling me this, I'm like, I'm going to use the pendulum on me to start getting rid of whatever blocks I may have, and to accelerate this release of my father. And that's what I did. So we're going to see how this plays out. But what I want you to do is, now that you've released the weight, let's step into your power. So in the next segment, I want to go into rising into that alignment. And as you release what you were never meant to carry, the question becomes, what now? And in this next segment, we're going to guide you through how to rise into your true self and create your personal power with divine clarity. So if you have the light activation guide, bring it out. We can go through it. Otherwise, we will use it as a tool for anchoring what is coming in next. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. Now that we've named the burnout and released the weight of false identities, this segment walks you through what's possible when you consciously choose to awaken. You'll reconnect with your inner light, trust Spirit's timing, and learn how to create from a place of alignment and not exhaustion. Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we are streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. So your light has never been lost. It was buried beneath who you were told to be. And how many of us came up, we had big dreams as kids, and yet we were told, no, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, how are you going to make a living if you're doing this, and blah, 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 kind of thing. And we took all of that on, and we ended up burying ourselves within that. But this, I want to empower you to anchor into your intuitive, aligned self and take ownership of your awakening journey. And the best way to do that is to be with you, to sit back and start reflecting on what your life is and where is it that you really want to go. What were those childhood dreams? What's going to make you move? What makes your heart sing? And those were questions that I asked myself many years ago, of what was it that I wanted to go? Because, when you start hitting your 40s, a lot of times you're like, well, who am I? It's like, I don't want to work for the man. I don't want to do this. I don't want this. I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. But you don't know who you are, but you're starting to wake up because there's a maturity level that comes in. Life has happened and you survive quite a bit of life by the time you're 40, but that doesn't mean you know who you are yet. So when you start asking the right questions, you start finding what it is, because you made it through the fire. So now let's rise. When you start knowing what it is you want, or who you want to be, or what is making your heart sing, or what has always been driving you, because there is a thread through your life. You have to look for it. And the only reason I looked for my thread was because it was when I wrote the anthology chapter, they said, well, what's the thread? And I had to walk around for a couple of days of really looking at what the thread of my life was. And when I found that, that gave me a whole new drive and a whole new set of things to do and to look at and tweaking, because we're always tweaking. We're always having to refine, especially when we have a big dream. It's in the tweaking and the going deeper and finding whatever that is, what's holding you back. And I want to honor all of you for staying present, even when you're in discomfort, because I know how hard it is to be in that icky place. It really does suck when you're just in this angst that you can't get rid of. You don't know what it is, but you're just sitting and being with it. And that's the best thing you can do, because in there, behind the angst, is a message. More of who you are, the true essence of you, starts to emerge. But you have to be in it. Doing drugs or drinking is not going to get you to the other side. It's going to numb it and keep you numb and keep you stuck in where you are. And I know that's not where 90% of us want to be. So as you're awakening, you're also returning to your truth. You're not becoming somebody new, but you're remembering who you are in this process. And the beauty of surrender, self-trust, and the spiritual guidance is there. That's probably the biggest thing that I don't think I realized until recently, how much that really is true. That the more I awoke, the more I could surrender, the more I realized I really do have something to say, and I really do deserve to be here. And people do want to hear what I have to say. And whoever I was around before, what they were doing is they were leading me or teaching me how to become the person I am today. The unconscious parts of myself of, when I would tell my father he was a hypocrite at 6 years old and I got smacked. What did that tell me? Oh, you're not allowed to speak. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Now, I didn't understand at 6 years old, I was calling my father a hypocrite, because I said, Dad, I'm not going to do what you say. I'm going to do what you do. And I didn't know what that meant at 6, but I learned very quickly. And it took me years before I realized that. But what did I do? I kept recreating my father. I married a man just like my father, so I could wake up to the process. And I had to trust in that, even though it doesn't make it easy during that period. But when you keep moving forward and you keep doing the hard things, by divorcing him, and I'm on a totally different trajectory. I can't imagine where I'd be today if I was still married to him. I know that I would not have the mouth, the light, the strength, the power that I have, the confidence in myself. I would never have had any of that, because I gave it all away to him. Because my mother taught me that the man's supposed to do everything and we're just like worthless. And I found that to be very much a lie. that women have just as much value, in my opinion, more than men, because we bring life into the world. We carry and do so much more. And we are the way showers. We are what creates life. We do this. Yes, we need men, but we are still the powerhouses because of the amount of pain that we can endure through childbearing and all of that. And if nothing else, women need to know that. And I'm not saying that we have to be the next Sheena or Xena or whoever it was back in the days, a spiritual princess warrior. We can be that, but we don't have to be, and we can be fierce, but we can still be feminine. We can still be gentle. We can be kind. And I don't think a lot of women are necessarily that right now. I think there's a bullyingness that's happening that needs to stop, because women, we are designed to work together instead of being competitive. And then, believe it or not, there are enough men to go around, even if we don't think so. They really are. If we're supposed to be with somebody, we will be with them. I promise you that. So how to move forward with clarity is start aligning your actions with your soul and not your ego. That's why I say get back into the heart of you. You feel and think with your heart, and you feel with your mind. If you do that, then you start getting back into there. And then listen to your body. Listen to your intuition. What lights you up? Those are things that are going to help bring clarity. I can't tell you, when I got into ballroom dancing, that's why Dancing Souls was written, because of ballroom dancing. There was so much change and transformation going on in my life during that period. And I was playing and I was having fun. And yes, I was going crazy at the same time, but it was what kept that energy moving so I could keep moving. Now, you're going to stop. There's going to be a part that you really have to do on your own. But, at that point, have a support team with you. Have people that are there holding you up. Whatever rituals you need to do, be quiet, journal, use the light activation guide, whatever it is. Because what was I doing? I went back to doing the runes. I was reading the tarot cards. Not that you could do all this by yourself, because, we're so skewed in our own stuff. But it was the journaling that came out, because when I wrote the books, all it was my daily journals for like 3 solid years. Every day I would just reflect, and I would reflect, and I would reflect. And it was because I was so unhappy in Chicago, but yet at the same time, I knew I needed to be there. I needed to go back into the heart of me. So I had a little 600 square foot apartment. I was in Chicago. I'm from Ohio. So it was all the Midwestern. I went back to my roots. And that's what I did. And the way the Midwest is they're just so open to receiving people. And that's what I got, is I was able to receive from people I didn't know. They were like, oh, come on over for dinner and you become your best friend. And I mean, that's what I remember. And I had to get back into that place of remembering so I could become that person, instead of always having my hand up and keeping people away because I was terrified that they would hurt me. So let me tell you something about what I did yesterday. I'm in the hotel. We have this nasty storm in Wyoming. And in Wyoming, when it snows, and it's a severe snow, the snow goes horizontally. Well, the rain does that too. So we had this really nasty storm. We had no power in the hotel for 3 hours. So I decided, when it eased up a little bit, I went out to eat. And so part of Torrington had lights and the other part didn't. So when I went out to eat, and I decided to get a salad bar. Now, because I don't trust people, I always take my purse with me. And for the first time in my life, I left my purse at my seat, trusting nobody would take my purse. That was huge for me. Huge. And I was apprehensive, but I was like, I can do this. I'm going to be fine. There's nobody around. And if they are, nobody's going to take my purse. And I know that. Welcome back, everyone, to the Journey of an Awakening Spirit. This is Kathleen Flanagan, your host, and we're streaming on the Bold Brave TV network. Obviously, the powers to be don't want me to speak too much today, so I do apologize for everything that is happening. It's my computer, and it might be the network. It might be both. It might be everything. Who knows? But I just wanted to come back and just let you know that you really are in control of your life, and the things that I'm doing, and I'm walking through my talk the moment it's going on. So like I said, when I was looking at all of this, and I did that affirmation of, I release the old, I rise in my truth and my light leads the way. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. And and the fact that I could take a stance with myself and trust that I'm moving forward, that I could leave my purse at my table to go to a salad bar. And I know people do it all the time, but that's not me. And to make those kind of changes, those are huge and profound. And I acknowledge that I've done that. And a lot of times we don't always do that for ourselves. We don't give ourselves credit, because every time in my past, I would always, when I accomplished something and it was big and it was huge and it made me feel good, it was on to the next. I never stopped to give myself permission to enjoy the win. And now I do. And so when I was talking about doing the pendulum with my cats, I decided to do the pendulum on myself of whatever the block is. Release the block for money. Release the block of what's holding me back. Release whatever the ties are with my family. If they are still plugged into me and I'm plugged into them, let's break those and sever. Let's untether from the earth. Let me soar where I need to soar. And then how to navigate into the fifth dimensional energy, but yet still somehow be tied to the earth plane. I don't know how to do that yet, but I will. And that's what I'm asking myself. I want to see how far I can soar, because the freedom that I'm feeling for the first time in my life is huge. That heaviness that I've been feeling for a while has been my father's energy. And the further away his death the moment of his death, which is a little over 30 days now, the more I feel free, the more my body seems to be lightening up. And I trust that. And I know it may sound wacky and crazy, and I really don't care what people think about it, because it works for me. And if it works for me, I find a truth in that. And that's what this is your truth is your truth. It doesn't have to be everybody else's truth. It's yours. It's what you know to be true for you. And I empower you to find your truth. I empower you to find your voice and speak up, because we need you now. Now is the time for each and every single one of us to wake up and to stand into our power, and to take the lies that were perpetuated on us and send them someplace else and bring out your true essence, because the beauty of who you are is just that. You have to see it. Nobody's going to see this until you see it. The minute you see it, your light will shine and emanate in a way, and your world will change in ways that you didn't know was possible. When I decided I was going to be happy, and no matter what that was, it was like, wow, the world's changing. It's like, no, it was my attitude towards what I wanted change. Being happy, all of a sudden the world became nicer. How was that possible? So what you really do hold the power. We have been dumbed down so much from our school systems, from the government, from the media, all of that. We've been dumbed down. We were trained to be a certain way so they can control us. Our ego runs our world. Well, stop letting the ego do it, because the ego is going to survive whatever that looks like. We are no longer fight or flight anymore. We think we are, but we're not. And the ego will always operate that way. The ego needs to sit in the back seat, and spirit needs to drive the car. Hardest thing you'll ever do. I promise you that. Hardest thing you will ever do. I couldn't let go of those reins to save my life for the longest time, but I did it. I finally friggin' did it. And I am like, why did I wait so long? Well, because that was part of what my learning was. It was about me really anchoring this in. It was about me understanding every step of the thing so I can teach you how to do it every step of the way. I know what you feel every step of the way because I lived it. I am not out there flapping my gums and saying, oh, I'm 20 years old and I'm waking up, I'm awake and I know everything. And then you're nasty, mean, and you're entitled. And no, you're not. No, you're not. You may have a clue, but you really don't have a clue, because you know what? Life experience overrules what you think up here. Because if you're coming from here, you have no clue. When you come from your heart, you have a clue. And I'm going to be blunt, because we are in a critical time that we need to wake up. And I want you guys to wake up and join me and changing the world. Let's bring this new world of light and love to us and allow that the abundance to come in. Not that you're entitled to it, we are, but we're not in that way that you think you are, but you're entitled by a divine right. That you are allowed to have everything that you want in your life, and let's go do it. But let's do it in the right way, where we're supporting each other and helping each other and working as a group of people, where we're making heartfelt connections. Because as long as you're on your phone, you are not connecting to another human being. I don't care what you say, you're not. So let's go out there and do that. So if you got any value whatsoever in the show, I would hope that you would like and subscribe the show, or send the link to somebody who might be needing to hear this. The Light Activation Guide will be in the show notes. It's free to you. All you have to do is just, I know, give your email address, and God forbid we do that, because I'm the same way. But it is, if you really are committed to wanting to grow and change and learn, this is a great way to start, to do very simple things that starts developing a routine of how to do that, because it is baby steps right now in the beginning. And that's pretty much all I have to say. You can go to the KathleenMFlanagan.com site. All my list of services and products are there. My books, Dancing Souls, The Call, The Dark Night of the Soul, and Awakened, are there. You can get them on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And from my heart to yours, I hope you all have a fabulous week, and I will see you next week, Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care.